The thought of having a close friend or family member being a serial killer is certainly a frightening one. Often, serial killers are the people we least expect and pretend to live ordinary lives. The 2018 film, The Clovehitch Killer, is an almost impeccable film with a suspenseful storyline, terrific acting, and a satisfying ending that often eludes films like this. The Clovehitch Killer begins by telling the story of a teenage boy named Tyler who slowly discovers the fact his father is a sadistic serial killer. Film does an incredible job pacing the events and doesn't give too much early on, nor does it make the audience wait too long. The Clovehitch Killer keeps the audience engaged by first establishing the extremely Christian environment that Tyler lives in. Then it progresses to show Tyler discover who his dad really is. Early on in the film, Tyler discovers some sexual pictures in his father's truck while on a date. His father, Don, though, is a community leader and presents himself to everyone as a man of high morals and virtues. Tyler's curiosity grows, though, and he soon breaks into his father's locked shed to see what he really does in there. Tyler then finds some Polaroid pictures of some women beaten and tied up. Right here, we pretty much know his father is the Clovehitch Killer. The Clovehitch Killer is a serial killer that stalked their community years ago. The film does a great job keeping the focus of the story on Tyler and how he deals with learning about his father's terrible secret and investigating it. We see the trials and tribulations he goes through as he first learns it and then confronts his dad, who blames it on Tyler's uncle. His dad tries to convince Tyler that he kept the photos and driver licenses to give to the victim's family one day. Tyler, though, obviously still can't believe this, that his dad is the Clovehitch Killer, and he accepts the explanation. Soon, though, Tyler's friend Cassie and him devise a plan to once and for all see if he's the Clovehitch Killer. They follow him to a woman's house, and Dawn attacks a woman there. Tyler and Cassie break in, and Tyler points the rifle, threatening his dad. Dawn knocks out Cassie, and then takes the rifle from Tyler. Here we got what I thought was one of the more shocking scenes in the movie. Dawn points the rifle at Tyler and fires. The gun isn't loaded, though. Here we see just how sick and depraved Don is. He's willing to kill his own son to protect his secret. Don established the perfect fake life, and now Tyler is a threat. Cassie eventually knocks Don out in the last scene, and the two call the police to help the assaulted woman. In the final scene, we see Tyler kills Don and buries him in the woods. Don gives a look of approval to Tyler, and to me, I think Don was aware he was twisted and evil, but he just couldn't control his urges. The movie flashed to Tyler giving the eulogy at their church, and he chooses to bury the horrific secret about his dad to protect his mom and sister. Overall, I thought the film was brilliant, with excellent suspense, incredible acting, and an engaging storyline. The movie doesn't go for the big twist or the surprise ending, as it chooses to focus on Tyler's journey. Earlier in the movie, the writing established Tyler grew up in a very religious family who was heavily involved in the church. The scene where his friend confronts him about the bondage pictures shows just how important ethics and morality are to his environment. Another key scene in the movie happens when Dawn was cross-dressing and unexpectedly Cassie came to the home. It's a creepy scene, and here we learn that Dawn wants to stop these sick urges, but can't. It seems earlier that Dawn had been able to, though. In the film, the Clovehitch Killer hadn't killed anyone in over 10 years, but by Dawn seeing the photos again, it triggered something inside him, something that he was able to contain for so many years. This was an excellent film all around, with solid writing, terrific acting, especially from Dylan McDermott. I'd surely recommend this film to watch. In 2020, one of the best thrillers of the year, Alone, was released. The movie Alone follows a grieving young woman driving cross country who begins to be stalked by an awkward, dangerous man. It's a tense, creepy thriller that has a great plot, superb acting, great cinematography, and cool camera angles and an awesome ending. In general, I really can't say enough good things about this movie, but I'm gonna do my best. First, though, I'm going to give a quick recap of the movie just in case it's been 4 years and you haven't seen it or you haven't watched it at all. Now, in the movie, recently widowed Jessica, played by actress Jules Wilcox, packs up her car and heads out for a cross-country trip. Now, along the way, somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, she begins to be stalked by this creepy man named Sam in a Jeep. Now he tries a number of things to take her, and essentially the situation escalates with him being just creepy to just getting downright dangerous. Now Jessica wisely avoids several of his traps, but eventually Sam, he slits her tires and he's able to abduct her on this dark, desolate road. He soon locks her up in a basement, and Jessica escapes rushing out into the woods. Now here we, the viewer, are treated to a really cool game of cat and mouse as we watch Sam hunt Jessica in the woods. Now, Sam isn't some skilled outdoorsman, he's actually a family man, but Jessica manages to really outsmart Sam, and despite being wounded, she eventually kills him. So this film really got a lot of things right in the writing. One, it didn't spend too much time on the road scenes. I think the perfect amount was done in terms of Sam stalking her. In addition, the pacing was really good in this movie, with the scenes increasingly becoming more unsettling, with Sam first just appearing like a jerk, and then essentially transitioning to this weirdo, and then to someone who looked like a legitimate threat, a very dangerous person. Much of the strength in this movie has to do with the fact also that Jessica makes pretty good decisions overall. Often in movies like this, we see the lead character make one or two bad decisions and then somehow they have to make up for it. But in this movie, this doesn't seem to happen, at least in my opinion. Now, for example, when Jessica is taken on the side of the road, I think she made the only decision she could. She essentially breaks down, her tire is slit on her trailer, and she's on a dark, desolate road. One side of the road, there's a cliff, and she attempts to unhitch the trailer as she sees that Sam is driving up towards her. I didn't think she could do anything else in the situation. Maybe she could have ran in the woods and hid, but I think Sam knew exactly where she was, and he kind of creeped up on her in a stalkerish way. She also makes a good decision after she escaped from the home Sam had rented. She ran into the woods, and I was expecting her to try and run to the car, try to start it. It wouldn't start. Sam would catch up. He'd grab her and throw her back in the basement. That's something we see all too often, but she was smart. She went out into the woods and was able to get away. Now, the only thing I could say possibly that was somewhat questionable was when she got in the back of Sam's truck at the end. It could have really ended badly, and it might have been smarter to grab his phone and run off in the woods. Still, one could argue against this, that if Sam got back in the car and he couldn't find his phone, he would begin scouring the area, knowing Jessica was nearby. Not to mention, even if she stole the phone, maybe there wasn't a cell signal out there. That's very possible too. In addition, it's also the case that she was really badly wounded and she just might not have been able to go on much longer. Now, the ending of this movie was terrific too. Jessica, who learns earlier in the movie Sam is a family man, calls Sam's wife and tells her the truth about her husband. Now, Sam can only listen and watch as his world is about to come tumbling down. I thought Sam came really unhinged here and still could have potentially salvaged the situation if he had not said anything while he was on speaker. He could have managed to get the phone back maybe quickly enough. He could have cut the phone call. Later, he could have told his wife someone stole his phone, he was assaulted or something. Or he could have claimed even, something like an affair was going on and the girl just lost it on him. I don't think many women are going to believe their husband is a serial killer. It seems though at this point, Sam kind of knows the gig is up and he's going to be content getting this one last kill. Of course, that doesn't happen here. An angered Jessica kills him. Now, I have to contrast this with another movie I reviewed on this channel named, not Cloverfield, the Clovehitch Killer. In that movie, the dad is a serial killer and the son ends up killing him in the end. And essentially, he protects the secret from his sister and from his mom. But in this case, Jessica, she just didn't care. She wanted them to know the truth. So he doesn't have any sort of positive legacy attached to his name. Now, coming back to Sam, played by Mark Benchacha, he's really excellent in this movie. He's just really creepy and plays the strange, awkward guy incredibly well. He's definitely not someone you would want to meet in a rest area bathroom. As creepy as he is, though, it's actually tough to believe he's married to Game of Thrones Lena Headey. I'll always remember him, though, as Rita's ex-boyfriend on the TV show Dexter. Love that show. Now, he was troubled on that show, too, so he seems to play that role really well. Well, Menchaca did excellent. Jules Wilcox, who plays Jessica, she did great, too. I especially thought she did good transforming from this isolated, damaged woman to a person determined to absolutely not only kill Sam, but also ruin any positive memory his family might have had about him. To me, this movie felt very similar to another thriller I just reviewed, Don't Move. In both movies, a grieving woman is attacked, kidnapped by a creepy man in the woods. The stories are of course different in both movies, but generally they had a lot of similar characteristics. I thought overall Alone was better than Don't Move, as the ending of Don't Move really had a number of plot holes, like the woman's ability to swim across a lake, although she was just paralyzed a few moments ago. Now, coming back to Alone, I also want to call out the terrific cinematography, as it was really good in this movie. The camera wasn't shaky, and the movie did a good job picking the right camera angle for a number of scenes, both on the road and out in the woods. In sum, this is definitely a terrific, underrated movie. I'd surely suggest to add it to your watch list. In 2016, I watched the movie Imperium, and I remember how impressed I was with this movie. I decided to give this a watch again the other day, and the film is even better than I originally remembered. Now, movies tackling racism and white supremacy, these can be incredibly tricky to do, especially in today's environment. And this is because the movie has to keep audiences entertained while also developing and really humanizing the white supremacist. We saw this happen in 1999 with American History X and how Edward Norton in that film, he changed his beliefs around white supremacy. But again, making a movie like this is very tough to do. Now, Imperium manages to really create a compelling storyline while keeping the story unpredictable and very suspenseful. Now, the movie centers around a young FBI agent named by Nate Foster. He's played by Daniel Radcliffe. The young agent, Agent Foster, goes undercover to try and locate some missing materials believed to be used in a dirty bomb. Foster is recruited by a veteran FBI agent, Angela Zambraro, played by Toni Collette, who acts as his handler really throughout the movie. And the objective of Radcliffe's mission is simple: infiltrate several white supremacy groups and determine if any of them have the missing cesium, which could be used to make the dirty bomb. So the strength in this movie definitely lies in the performances by Radcliffe and Collette. Early on in the film, Collette tests Radcliffe's on his backstory, and that scene really sets the stage for much of the tension that you feel throughout the movie. If Nate has the slightest slip up while undercover, then he's surely going to get killed. So the character of Nate is very well developed and very intriguing for this movie. Nate doesn't have any experience doing undercover work, but being so intelligent, he's able to talk his way out of several situations in the movie. In an early scene in the movie, one of the white supremacists point out he was wearing Levi jeans. The question being, why was Nate supporting a company founded by a Jew? Nate is able to talk his way out of it by spewing some white racist rhetoric. Now, later on in the movie, Vince Sargent, who's one of the leaders of one of these groups, him and his group learn that Nate was never in the army as he told them, and they confront him about it, but Nate is able to convince Andrew, the leader of a white supremacy militia group, that he was deep undercover, and that's why there's no record of him in the army. So there's this palpable tension in the film around Nate possibly getting caught at any time, and we see him talking his way out of multiple situations, trying to behave like these people, but really struggling to. There's also well-developed characters with various storylines. Now, one of them is a teenager. His name is Johnny, and he joins the gang, the white supremacy gang, due to his fear and anger. And at the end of the movie, much like Edward Norton in American History X, Johnny realizes his anger clouded his judgment and made him go in there. And it doesn't excuse his actions, and he knows it. So he tries to make amends by speaking to high schoolers about why he did what he did. Now, one of the key figures in the movie is Jerry Conway, played by Sam Trammell, who's an excellent actor overall. Conway is a white-collar engineer with a family, but also an avid white supremacist. Now, on the surface, Conway, he's much different than these other people that Radcliffe has met. Conway's mild-mannered, he's polite, he appears to be friendly, and Nate even asks him by mistake why or how he hangs out with these guys, as he seems normal. And we learn here that, Jerry, unlike many others in the film, was influenced a different way. He was actually influenced by the literature and the arts, where others were influenced and really brought in by things like anger and fear and insecurity. So Jerry appears to have the perfect life with a beautiful home, a wife and 2 kids. However, Jerry is the one who Nate eventually discovers is building the dirty bomb. Now, in my opinion, this wasn't really a complete surprise if you were paying attention, as most of the movie seemed to focus on a radio host, his name was Dallas Wolf, as having the cesium. Still, the tension in the film is constant, and this wasn't like Scream where you're trying to constantly guess who has the materials. The movie, the acting was just superb, the story was excellent, and it really outperformed expectations. Overall, I would surely recommend this movie. It's definitely one worth checking out. Just the other day, I watched the 2023 thriller, What You Wish For. The movie follows a chef named Ryan, who travels to a Central American country to visit his friend Jack, also a chef. Once the man arrives, he learns his friend Jack appears to be doing really well, at least on the surface. He's cooking dinner parties for the ultra-rich, making great money, and traveling the world. However, not everything is as it seems, and Ryan soon learns everything around his friend's life isn't all that it's cooked up to be. What You Wish For is a smart, edgy thriller that keeps the viewer interested. The acting is terrific, and there's excellent chemistry among the small cast of characters. The movie does a great job keeping this palpable tension in the air, especially once the movie gets going and we discover just why Jack was making such massive amounts of money. I have to say, after watching this movie, I really wish I hadn't seen the trailer to it. It sort of gives away the storyline and makes it a little bit predictable. Despite this, though, I still enjoyed the movie and knew someone or somehow the Dinners were evil in some type of way. The movie stars Nick Stahl as the main character, or Ryan. If you're wondering who Nick Stahl is or his work, you'll probably be familiar with him if you saw Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. Stahl played a young John Connor, and even though many bash this film, I thought it was the third best in the franchise. In general, Stahl was pretty good in this movie, and I think he really is underrated as an actor. He's been in a number of smaller films since 2003 as well, but I think that he's really the type of person that should be in some of these bigger budget films. Coming back to the movie What You Wish For, if you haven't seen the film, I'm going to give away several spoilers in the next few minutes just as a heads up. Now, in the movie, on the third morning Ryan wakes up, he discovers his friend Jack has hung himself. Now, this is somewhat foreshadowed in the prior scenes when Jack and Ryan are hanging out. As Ryan starts to learn about Jack's seemingly glamorous life, it becomes obvious that something is troubling him. He appears haunted and unfulfilled, despite making this terrific money and traveling the globe working this dream job. Now, once Ryan discovers Jack's body, he's faced with a dilemma. Ryan's got his own problems with money. He has massive gambling debts, and the bookies are threatening to kill his mom if he doesn't pay. Not to get sidetracked too much, but I couldn't understand why he didn't ask Jack for the money, or maybe at least part of it in the movie. Anyhow, a desperate Ryan decides to assume Jack's identity so that he can get his money. He begins by getting a fake ID from China and plans to raid Jack's bank accounts. Soon, though, Jack's employers arrive to help prepare for the dinner party. The lead woman is a character named Imogen, who is essentially the head boss of this dinner. There's also Maurice, who's the muscle. Ryan poses as Jack, and Imogen begins asking about plans for the dinner. Imogen and Maurice are employed by a clandestine, dangerous organization that plans these dinners all over the world. Ryan soon learns the horrifying truth, though. The dinner is not just some ordinary dinner, but an expensive dinner for rich cannibals. Next, we see Ryan is dragged along to go get the produce, which is code word for the human meat the cannibals will consume. Maurice kills an innocent man, and Ryan is forced to prep the deceased man for the night's entree. The movie at this point is pretty engaging, and it's clear that Ryan is in over his head. His hope is that he can cook this one meal, then disappear, and also pay off his debts. It becomes apparent soon, though, there's no way out once you're in this organization. As the clients arrive, Ryan begins serving the first of the 4-course meal. Soon, though, a detective and police officer arrive in a nice twist. They begin questioning the group whether they've seen the young man who has been killed. I thought the movie did a good job showing just how organized this group is. When the detectives arrived, Imogen, her entire group, and even the guest already were well aware of the backstory and had practiced it. They pose as investors looking to build a hotel. Even with an extremely suspicious detective, they managed to answer questions sufficiently. Well, everyone is able to do this except Ryan, of course, who is supposed to be an architect but knows nothing about it. When pressed by the detective about basic architecture concepts, he struggles to answer them. One big issue, though, I did have with this film seemed to be when Ryan decided to take the detective down to the cellar and show him the bodies. I really didn't understand this. He should have just let him leave and have the detective return with backup. Maybe I missed something here, but the detective was already suspicious, and I don't think that he needed convincing that something illegal was going on here. The movie does a terrific job showing the tentacles of this powerful evil organization behind the dinners. They give just the right amount of info, and we learn from several conversations there's basically no escape from the company once you are hired. This is exemplified when they tag Ryan the day after the dinner like a dog. In the final scene, we see Ryan talking with a textile worker at an airport bar. Like Jack, Ryan has many of the same responses to questions around what he does. He states in this defeated and horrified manner that he cooks meals for ultra-rich people, makes incredible money, and travels the world. Much like Ryan initially, the man can't get over how cool the job is. It seems that Ryan has accepted his fate. Will we see a sequel to this film, though? Probably not. I do think a sequel could work. There's numerous ways it could go, such as Ryan meeting the people running the show, or Ryan also trying to escape the life. The movie was quite popular among audiences and critics, and with a unique story, excellent acting, and a good storyline, it's surely one sequel I'd want to see. In my opinion, some of the best types of movies are the ones that keep you guessing. Films like Seven, The Sixth Sense, and Silence of the Lambs are a few modern-day classic thrillers with consistent tension and unpredictability that made them really iconic. Now, 10 Cloverfield Lane, the topic of this video, it doesn't quite reach the heights of the aforementioned films, but still the movie does a terrific job keeping audiences engaged and guessing throughout the story. Now, the storyline of this film centers around a woman named Michelle who just called off her engagement with her fiancé. She gets in a car wreck and a man takes her hostage in his underground bunker. The man, played by John Goodman, claims that we were attacked and that they used biological or chemical weapons, and as a result, they can't go outside and they need to stay in the bunker. Now, the story does a terrific job of changing directions and making the viewer question what's happening. In the beginning, it appears Howard is just a maniac, a prepper, a doomsdayer. But after a while, we see Michelle, and she witnesses a woman die outside the bunker, and she comes to the realization that Howard, albeit strange, appears to be telling the truth, or at least some truth. He hasn't just kidnapped her like she originally thought. Now, there's also another man stuck in the bunker with them too, Emmett. Emmett confides to Michelle that he actually chose and begged Howard to let him in the bunker. He helped Howard build it. So the character of Howard is really masterfully played by John Goodman. He was a perfect call for this role. His character changes from scene to scene, really keeping the audience guessing around him and his intentions. Is he just this strange prepper, or is there something sinister at play? Does he have malevolent intentions? Howard seems quite amicable, but he's also obsessed with control, and it seems to drive him nuts. Certain things seem to drive him nuts and really get under his skin. Despite this, Howard seems concerned for the two and their well-being, and that they enjoy their time in the bunker, especially Michelle. Now, it's pretty impressive, in my opinion. This movie was able to create such an engaging story filled with tension in pretty much just one set or one setting. As the movie progresses, we see Michelle realize Howard kidnapped a girl and killed her several years ago, and even though the outside world might be uninhabitable, Michelle decides to collude with Emmett to escape. Howard eventually thwarts their plan, and Michelle is forced to escape by herself, burning down the shelter. Now, there is one glaring plot hole, I think, in this film, and this is when the air filtration system goes down. Michelle is coerced to crawl through an air duct so she can reset the system. And to me, it just seems that Howard, being the prepper he was, being so on top of things, would anticipate this situation. Since he's so big, of course, Howard can't crawl through it, and in planning and preparing and building this bunker that has everything in it, that would seem like one scenario that would at least cross his mind, and he wouldn't have had the air filtration system in a place that's basically inaccessible from the bunker. Now, one thing I might have changed about this movie is the ending. I might have had Michelle and Emmett escape and excluded the part around Howard killing the girl, really just making him a psycho, and then maybe had them escape in the final scene, have them get taken by the aliens and look down at the bunker, just showing Howard staring at them. I think that would have been a better ending for the film. But overall, the movie was excellent, with incredible acting, a great story, and an ending that was definitely satisfying enough that didn't leave me disappointed. If you haven't seen this film, I definitely suggest it. Thanks for watching.